What's up, guys? Welcome to Daily Dose of Reddit. This is your host, Zach, and today's subreddit is r/EntitledParents. This story is called Entitled Parent Threatens to Kill Me and My Friend. When I was 12, me and my friend were at the park right by her house. During the day, we had been practicing a talent show act for our school, and we were wearing the costumes we made for it. Suspenders, glasses, ponytails, black tights, ties, the whole stereotypical nerd getup. We didn't have time to get changed, and we assumed that nobody would care too much if we went to the park looking like that. It didn't matter. It shouldn't have mattered. We went to the park, we scootered there, and see this sort of family gathering. There's a whole bunch of parents having a picnic and their kids playing on the playground. This doesn't matter too much to us, and we start to play. The kids were a little younger than us, maybe 10? They were taking over the whole playground, but me and my friend didn't care too much because we got on a small piece of equipment on the side and we just started chatting. After a few minutes, this group of kids comes along and starts playing on the thing we're sitting on. No big deal. We get up to leave when one of the kids, entitled kid, stands in front of me to stop me from walking away. He's quite short, but looks mean.
What are you wearing?
Oh, it's just an outfit for our talent show.
You look freaking stupid.
I was really surprised at that sort of language coming from a 10-year-old. I didn't know what to say, so I just pushed past him, and me and my friend went to another piece of equipment. The kids follow us over, and it's at this point that I notice one of the kids' fathers standing nearby. He seems to be nice enough. He smiles at us and goes back to watching the kids. Me and my friend try to be by ourselves, but entitled kid keeps bringing the kids over and pushing us, swearing at us, and in general being a little crap. He would say things like,
"I'm gonna kill you,"
and
"You look like bundles of sticks used for burning."
To which my friend and I would just reply, "Sure," and "Okay," trying not to escalate the situation. At one point, things seem to have calmed down, but I notice that the kids are stealing our scooters. One group is working to throw my friend's scooter over a fence, and the others are running off with mine down a path. I send my friend off to get hers and start sprinting after the kids. I manage to catch up to them and corner them against the fence. "Give that back. It's not yours."
"What are you gonna do, bench?"
At this point, I'd had enough. I push him into the fence and rip the scooter out of his hands. I turn around and start walking down the path. The kids run up behind me and start pushing me from behind, but I don't retaliate. After a few pushes, the group runs down the path ahead of me, entitled kid in the lead. I think that maybe they've given up, but when I get back to the playground, I see things are way worse. My friend is still tussling with the other group, trying to get the scooter. And entitled kid is standing by his mom, tugging on her sleeve and wailing, pointing at me with this evil grin on his face. She looks like a real meth head. A total mess. She, entitled parent, starts marching towards me, and my friend sees this happening and comes over after getting the scooter. The conversation goes as such.
"You've been bullying my son."
"What? Your son has been attacking me and my friend all afternoon."
"Stop lying. This whole afternoon you've been an educated donkey and pushing my kids around, not letting them use the playground."
I'm completely shocked at this point. But it was then that I remembered the father. He had seen the whole thing. Thinking I had a leg up on entitled parent now, I say, "Ask him." I point to the man. He's been standing by the playground this whole time and watched the whole thing. I say to the man, "Tell her." He looks very uncomfortable, and entitled parent stares at him with this look of threat. He scowls at me and straightens up.
"All I saw was you talking back and bullying the kids."
I felt sick at this point. Here I was, a 12-year-old, being pressured by a group of adults. I was beyond terrified. I managed to say, "Your kid just tried to steal our scooters."
"Maybe he wouldn't have done that if you weren't such a bench. Now leave. Nobody wants you here. We live in this neighborhood and know everyone around, so don't think you're safe."
Me and my friend turn tail and run. We were shaking, on the verge of tears, and petrified that our families would die. We get back to my friend's house and break down crying. Her dad comes over and tries to calm us down. He asks what happened and we explain, and he grabs his phone. He dials the non-emergency line and takes us back to the park so he can deal with the lady. When we get there, the whole group is gone. No sign they ever existed. The police arrive and ask us questions, being super comforting and letting us know that we'd be safe if we answered their questions. After they went over everything, they said that they suspect it's a family that has been known for terrorizing the neighborhood. Several people had complained, but they didn't take it too seriously until they threatened to kill us. In the following days, my friend let me know what was happening. The police went to their house to get their side of the story, and while there, they found traces of illegal substances. The police never said what, but I know that entitled parent went to jail for a long time. How screwed up as a parent do you have to be to do something like that, to threaten a scared girl who's alone? Like, come on, that's so messed up. And you know what? The kid, he might have been a jerk in this story, but honestly, can you blame him? Like, when you consider who he's been raised by and around, it's ridiculous. Alright, here we have an absolute colossus of a story called I Get Karen Sent to the Principal's Office, and this time, she doesn't get the kids. During my last few years of high school, I delivered newspapers every morning. The money wasn't great, but it was my first job. I really enjoyed the peace and quiet that comes with being awake before the sun rises. It was an enjoyable experience, however, there were downsides. For example, we had to go around once a month to collect payments, which was a real pain. If you can't get a customer to answer the door, they can't pay you. If a customer decided to simply stop paying you, there was nothing that you could do about it. The subscription could only be canceled by the customer themselves. So, if someone decided to not pay you, the money was taken out of your earnings and the delivery person was the one stuck with the bill. Unfortunately, this was extremely common. This would eventually become the reason I quit, since I could not afford to work 2 hours a day and not get paid for it. One morning, as I arrived home from finishing my route, my mother was extremely agitated. My boss had called and woke her up 15 minutes earlier because he had started receiving calls from the paper saying that several customers on a route connected to mine had called to say they had not received their paper, and that this had happened several times this week, so he had to fire the person on that route. He wanted to know if I could take over the route. The route was only about half the size of the route I was currently doing and would only add about 30 minutes a day to my trip, so I agreed to take it. The first week passes pretty uneventfully. One morning, during the second week of doing my new route, a few stops before I finish the route, as I am heading back over to my bike after hitting a string of houses, I can hear a woman's voice calling out, "Excuse me! Hey yo! Excuse me!" I turn around to see a woman. She's coming down the driveway in a t-shirt and underwear, holding a newspaper in one hand, and using her free hand to try and pull the bottom of her shirt lower to preserve some sense of modesty. I recognize her as one of the substitute teachers at my high school. "Excuse me, what the frick is this?" she says, holding up the newspaper. I stood there confused for a moment before replying, "I'm sorry, Miss Karen, but I don't understand." She cuts me off. "I thought I already told you, if you guys are gonna fire my daughter for being a little late one day, then I do not want your freaking paper." I'm still a little confused. "I'm sorry, Miss Karen, but I've only had this route a few days, and I'm certain I'm not the person you spoke with. Maybe you spoke with Mr. Boss?" "Well, if you're not the person I spoke to, then how do you know my name?" she said, wearing the smuggest "I've got you now" face. "I'm one of your students. I've been going to the high school you teach at for 4 years. If you want to cancel your subscription, you have to call the number. I can't cancel it for you." This obviously wasn't what you wanted to hear. She got really calm for a second and looked me in the eyes and said, "You think you're really freaking smart, don't you?" Before throwing the paper at me and turning around to waddle back up the driveway with her granny panties riding up her 45-year-old butt crack. I called my boss when I got home to tell him what happened and that she wanted her subscription canceled. He told me that when he had called to fire her daughter, Karen had picked up the phone and screamed the same thing at him, and that he had also told her that she needed to call the subscription line if she wanted her service canceled, and that the teenage paperboy could not cancel the subscription for her. He also said that when Karen's daughter accepted the job, her mom told her that she would be away every second weekend at her father's and would not be able to deliver the Saturday and Sunday papers, and that her mom would deliver them. The next Saturday, I received an updated subscription list and checked if her address was still on it. It was, meaning that she still hadn't called the line to cancel, so I had no choice but to keep delivering the paper. This continued for a few more months until I was finally able to convince my boss to cancel her paper due to non-payment. One morning on a weekday, I accidentally slept in until about 4:30 a.m., which meant I had to rush to get them all delivered before 6:30, which is the cutoff time before paper can be considered late. I deliver Karen's paper around 6:15, which once again is near the end of my route. This time, Karen comes running out, wearing pants this time, and starts yelling at me about how the paper is late and that she is going to call the paper and get me fired, just like they did to her daughter for being a little late one time. I tried to explain that her paper, while arriving a little later than I normally deliver it, is still not past the cutoff time and that the paper is only guaranteed to be in her mailbox before 6:30. And she, of course, in typical Karen fashion, was having none of it. "You can't talk your way out of this one. You're gonna be so freaking fired." And she runs back into her house, laughing to herself. About 2 hours later, I am sitting in class waiting for first period to start, and who should walk in to teach the class that day but Miss Karen. She has barely taken 2 steps into the class when she spots me and begins shaking her finger in my direction. "Nuh-uh, no, not you. You go to the office now." My entire class is baffled for 2 reasons. The first reason being that I was a pretty good kid and didn't get into trouble often. And the second reason being that it happened so quickly after her walking into the room that I couldn't have even had the time to misbehave in any way, shape, or form. I arrive at the principal's office and check in with the secretary. She asks why I was in the office and not in class. "Look, Miss Nice Secretary, I know every kid who gets sent to the office probably says this, but I honestly didn't do anything wrong." I then explain what happened between myself and Karen earlier concerning the paper route, and that this was about something that happened outside of school during non-school hours. She looks at me slightly confused and then nods at another girl sitting in the waiting room and asks if I know who she is. I didn't. I had never seen her before. She was a pretty girl, maybe 2 years younger than me, with short bleach blonde hair, wearing a band tee with the sleeves cut off, and what had to be at least 10 bracelets on each wrist. I can't remember the band, but it was probably some 90s punk band. The fact that she had been crying was obvious. Her eye makeup had been running and her face was red. I was sent to sit with her in the waiting area. She was sat on the furthest right with 2 seats to her left. I followed urinal etiquette and took the seat on the left. As we sat there waiting to speak to the principal, she would periodically play with her bracelets and rings, which is how I caught a glimpse of the fresh purple bruise around her wrist. The principal's door opens and the secretary whispers something to him, which causes him to glance at me. "Mr. Gregg, could you come in here, please?" Now, pretty girl's eyes light up with recognition as if she knows who I am. And it's at this point my foolish teenage self realizes that there is something bigger going on than me being kicked out of physics before the class even starts. The principal asks me what happened, and I explain to the best of my ability what had happened that morning. He thanked me and asked me to have a seat again. When I came out, the girl was gone. The principal asked the secretary if there was another teacher available with a free period. She said, "Yes, Miss Math teacher is free right now. Should I page her?" "Yes, please." The math teacher escorts me back to class and tells Miss Karen that she needs to go to the principal's office. We spend the rest of the class with a free period. I never see Miss Karen again, and as far as I knew, that was the end of the story. Until a few years later, Pretty Girl ended up dating one of my friends, and I finally got to hear the rest of the story. Pretty Girl was Karen's daughter, and her parents were getting a divorce. Karen was a drunk. Apparently, she had been the one to get her daughter the paper route, because she thought having that job would mean her daughter would have to be at her house every night and never at her father's. Pretty Girl had tried the paper route and living with her mom for a while, but being the mean drunk that she was, things deteriorated pretty quickly and Pretty Girl wanted to go stay with her dad. When she did, there was no one to deliver the papers, and that's why she was fired. Not because they were a little late, but because around 50 newspapers had not been delivered several days in a row. Without the paper job, Karen had lost her imagined bargaining chip and was angry, which is why she decided I was public school enemy number 1, even though all I had done was accept more work. She thought getting me fired from a paper route I had been doing without complaint for 3 years would mean that her daughter would get the job back again. She had called the paper to complain about me, and despite them having probably told her that the paper was not late, she decided to drive over to Pretty Girl's dad's house and give her the good news that she was getting her job back, and gave her a lift to school. Pretty Girl had told her mom that she did not want the job or the lift, and that she was not supposed to come over when her dad was not there. Karen didn't like that and dragged Pretty Girl by her arm to the car. Pretty Girl went straight to the office when classes started and asked them to call her dad. He had picked her up while she was in the principal's office. Now apparently, what I had told the principal was enough to corroborate Pretty Girl's story, which gave the principal what he needed to speak to the union and have her removed from my school's roster until Pretty Girl had graduated. That morning's events had also been a deciding factor in her dad getting full custody. This time, Karen did not get the kids. Okay, so that was quite the epic tale of the downfall of that nasty monstrosity called Karen. Or at least one of the potentially millions of them out there. You know, there was a time where the only Karen I knew was this weird, quiet horse girl that was weird, but she was nice. Okay, and now look at this. Come on, universe. This story's called, Can You Please Not Apply to Cornell? My son wants to apply there too. So this is a story that happened to my friend this year, and I am honestly so shocked by this. So basically, my friend is a regular good student at school, has amazing after-school activities, and is student government president. She also has a perfect SAT score. It has been my friend's dream to go to Cornell. Both her parents went, and she has been in love with it for years. Now enter entitled mom and entitled son. My friend's mother gets a call on our mobile from the entitled mom. Basically, it goes like this. Hi, are you friend's mom? Yes, what do you need? Friend is applying to Cornell? Early decision, right? Yes, she is. Why? Can she please withdraw her application? My son is applying there and we want there to be less competition for him. If you agree to pay my daughter's full tuition wherever she goes, sure. Excuse me? My friend's mom just hung up on her. My friend is still applying to Cornell. Hopefully she gets in rather than this entitled mom's spawn. You know what? This story was short, however, it basically captures the full essence of entitled parents. Who asks that? Like, this is an amazing school and you're just gonna ask someone to not apply there? What an idiot! However, she does want her son to get into this amazing school, but shouldn't it be on the son to get in there, not on someone else's kid? Like, you're not gonna hate on this girl just because she's good at school, are you? Come on. That's stupid. Also, I bet we're all in agreement when I say I hope Andy Bernard conducts that kid's interview. There you go, Office reference for you Office fans. I know someone would say something in the comments if I didn't say anything. Moving on. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell to never miss an episode.